I really don't know where to start this video. We're getting sorted. I haven't filmed in a minute because I've been sad. Trigger warning, emotional. Trigger warning.
Losing a family member.
Losing a family member.
I caught a Squirtle with a Master Ball, and that was not on purpose. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was a happy little accident. We're gonna be playing fast and loose with the format a little bit of this video. I'm gonna be hopping around to several different games. I feel like it'll make sense later, but really what I want to talk about today is my hyperfixation on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and where it started, what it became, where I'm at now, because initially I was just like, I want to play some Pokemon. I'd love to play the game. And then it turned into like in my mind, I keep using the word multimedia, but that's not true because it's all video games. It's the first time I've tried to take advantage of how flexible Pokemon has become with new technology by picking up Pokemon from this game, picking up Pokemon from that game in order to complete the Pokedex and have the team that I want. Without further ado, let's talk about Brilliant Diamond. Back in November of 2021, I bought the double pack of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I was hoping that it would be more than it was. Like, I bought the double pack of Sword and Shield. It came with this beautiful steelbook. Hang on. I love that I film over here now because it's really easy for a show and tell. This is my special edition Fire Emblem Fates 3DS, in case any of you think that I'm no longer a Fire Emblem girly. I still love the games. I just haven't touched Fire Emblem in a while. I bought Dark Deity on Steam, though, during the Steam sale. Anyways, like, Sword and Shield came out with this, like, very beautiful steelbook. I love a steelbook. They feel luxurious, premium. They're for collectors. So I was hoping that we would get something a little bit more interesting for getting the bdsp dual pack. Not the case. I think it was like, you can get some extra Pokeballs in game with this code, and then the pre-order bonus was like a shitty string bag, which I'm never gonna use. I love Gen 4 with my whole heart. Those were my first mainline Pokemon games that I had. I've told the story more than once on here, but my first mainline Pokemon game that I bought was a bootleg copy of Pearl. It glitched out after the 4th gym. It just stopped working. I reviewed BDSP at the beginning of 2022, and honestly, my content has come so far. Watch that at your own risk. I didn't rewatch it for this. I don't know what I said. And my main criticisms are the same as everybody else's. BDSP would have done well to be a blend of Diamond and Pearl, and then adding all those features from Platinum that makes Platinum so special. Also, it would have been nice if the remakes weren't so faithful. I feel like Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire really benefited from how much they added to those games on top of what already existed in the original. Like in Oras, they add an epilogue at the end that's really good, and that's how you get Rayquaza and Deoxys. It's great. BDSP missed the mark as a remake. I love Pokemon. I've been a long time player. I'm really much looking forward to Legends ZA. It's been a minute since I've played Pokemon. I haven't had my fix in a while because I haven't played any of the DLC from Gen 8 or Gen 9. So like, I haven't played Pokemon since 2022, and I was really actively playing because they came out with so many games that year. My first attempt of satiating my Pokemon hunger was replaying White, because I have Black 2 and White 2 still, and I've never replayed Black or White. I used to think they sucked. I was having a wonderful time. I named my character after Wanda from Fantasy High. If you know, you know. But then I accidentally killed the run because of an emulator misclick. I thought I undid all of the hotkeys, but I didn't. So it was really unsatisfying. I basically cut my run in half, and then I was like, okay, I'm not replaying like 5 hours of game to get back to where I was. So maybe I'll play White later. But right now, that was a bust. Interestingly enough, this is where Shining Pearl comes in. A twist. Not even Brilliant Diamond. At the time that I reviewed BDSP, I had only played Brilliant Diamond. I didn't play Pearl. I started with Pearl. I had this great team picked out, but I used to really actively resell games, which I don't do so much anymore because I've run into this issue where I buy the games back. So I'm basically spending the money twice just to like have it in my library. So I've been a lot more conservative with getting rid of games. So I abandoned my Pearl run sometime during summer 2022. Libraries where I live carry video games. So I was scrolling through and I just wanted to see what they had. I was checking to see like how long the wait time for Scarlet would be, because Gen 9 are the only Pokemon games that I haven't played with each starter. So I'm like, okay, let's poke around. Let's see what they have. But there's a long wait time on Scarlet and Violet, because even though they're broken games that kind of suck, there's still a great demand to play them. So the wait times for those were really long, But Shining Pearl, available immediately. And I didn't finish my run. So I was like, okay, let's go back in. Let's see what progress I made. You know, I lost part of the white run, but I only had a little bit left of Shining Pearl. So technically that adds up to one full run, right? The last thing I remember was hunting for a Magby. Hopefully this is concise and makes sense, but in the original Diamond and Pearl, there are a decent chunk of Pokemon that are just unavailable unless you have the right Game Boy game also loaded into your DS, because the original DS and the DS Lite have Game Boy cartridge slots on the bottom. If you have a later DS iteration that doesn't support Game Boy, you're hooped. And Gen 4 did this interesting thing where the back half of the Pokedex is dozens of Pokemon evolutions. A lot of the base Pokemon for these cool new mons that they've added are just not available in Diamond or Pearl. So I've never used Magmortar because they're hard to get. But let's say it's 2008. To do this, I wouldn't just need a copy of Diamond or Pearl, the games that this Pokemon was literally created for. I'd also need to have a copy of Leaf Green in my system and make it all the way to Route 227, which is way deep in the post game. Like, you can't beat the main content with a Magmortar. Magmar evolves into Magmortar when traded with the Magmarizer item. That's a lot of the same consonants. Oh my goodness. Mag. So you also have to have friends or a second DS with another copy of a Gen 4 game, whichever's easiest. In Platinum, they fix this and you can get Magmar in the Fuego Ironworks, which is literally a foundry named after fire, and yet doesn't contain any fire-type Pokemon in Diamond or Pearl. In BDSP, because they're faithful remakes, the overworld encounters are exactly the same as they were in the originals. They don't blend in the improvements made in Platinum. The remakes were also outsourced to Ilka as the lead developers, which is wild because that makes them the only mainline titles that weren't developed in-house. I'm assuming Ilka isn't responsible for a ton of decisions outside of actually creating the game. I'm assuming the decision to really faithfully remake the game and then do Diamond and Pearl stuff as like post-game content was all a direction from Nintendo and Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. I don't know, that's conjecture, but I would assume a lot of Nintendo personnel oversaw the project very closely. I say this because Ilka gets a lot of flack as a developer because of these games. BDSP are some of the first games that they've done lead development on. They've helped with a handful of games over the past like 15 years, but this was a really high profile job for them. But overall, I do think the reason why this game wasn't what the fans wanted is Game Freak's fault. Ilka can make games. They don't do lighting and saturation well, in my opinion, but they've led development on One Piece Odyssey, they've done Sandland, which both are visually slightly drab, but it makes me think that they could have done a much better job of building an open world Pokemon, like, I don't know, Scarlet and Violet. Like, maybe they could have done that better than Nintendo and have it actually run, because One Piece Odyssey and Sandland both look fine. I know some people are going to want some Ilka slander, so Pokemon Home absolutely sucks. There you go. Sorry, that's my Ilka tangent. Back to the Magby tangent. Diamond and Pearl and their remakes feature a large underground area, which is mainly for a mining minigame where you can collect resources like evolution stones, shards for move tutoring, fossils. The underground was retooled in the remakes, so Pokemon that were weirdly exclusive in the originals are available down here as rare encounters. They added a bunch of room biomes. It reminds me of, I think it has Josh Hutcherson and they go into the center of the earth, journey to the center of the earth. It's giving that. There's a bunch of rooms now in the underground that are brightly lit and beautiful and different biomes, and you can find Pokemon there. A lot of Pokemon can appear in these rooms, so you kind of have to just shuffle the encounters every time by going in and out. So it takes some time to find a Magby in general, but the only way to get a Magmarizer is to catch a Magby that's holding one, and they only have a 5% chance of having one. So that's like 1 in 20 Magbys. I caught at least 15 before I found one that was holding a Magmarizer. It took me a few hours of hunting to actually catch the right Magby. Also, Magby is an exclusive to Shining Pearl, which is part of why I wanted to use it. So it's not like I could do this in the Brilliant Diamond copy that I have. Thank you so much for listening to my Magby tangent, because it seems like such a small order compared to what else I'm going to get into in this video. So I gave up that run in 2022. It's now 2024. I load the game back up and I'm right in front of the 6th gym leader, Byron. I streamed the evening that I continued that game, so you can watch that VOD if you'd like. But I finished the Magby hunt. I didn't think I did, but I have a Magmar with a Magmarizer that I just gave up on.
All that work and what did it get me?
I streamed for about 4 hours that night, and then I cleared the game the next day, beating Cynthia by sweeping her with a +5 Calm Mind Alakazam. Honestly, I felt so proud of the play because she leads with a Spiritomb that knows Sucker Punch, and although the Elite Four teams are built for competitive play, Sometimes the AI is a little bit dumb. Sucker Punch only works if your opponent is attacking, and the AI is going to want to use it because Alakazam is Psychic type, so it's a super effective move, but the AI didn't realize that I was taking advantage of that and switch up on me. Sucker Punch normally can only be used 5 times, so I got off 5 free Calm Minds, and then I made quick work of Cynthia's whole team, except for Garchomp, which absolutely deflated the moment. The level curve in BDSP is weird because of the experience share. In earlier games before the switch to 3D, only Pokemon that actually participated in the battle got experience unless you used an experience share, which used to be a held item that only one Pokemon could use at a time. In the newer games, that feature is just on in the background for your whole team, generally causing you to be overleveled. I don't play Pokemon for challenge, so I don't really care about the EXP share. For me, I find it expedites the process and it's a lot more convenient. But I'd appreciate a little bit more balance because my teams were grossly overleveled, and then you reach the Elite Four and their Pokemon, like I said, are built for competitive play, so they're much stronger than everything else you encounter in the game. It's a bit of a rude awakening because Cynthia is actually kind of hard. So my Alakazam was slightly underleveled for the final boss because Volkner, the 8th gym leader, his strongest Pokemon is level 49, and then there's the jump to level 60 by the time you reach the Elite Four. Also, there is an invisible friendship mechanic that has been present in Pokemon for a long time. In the 2D era, friendship was pretty much only relevant for Pokemon that needed high friendship to evolve, or for certain moves where the damage is calculated based on the Pokemon's friendship. In the newer games, friendship has been beefed up, so your Pokemon can land critical hits more often and also survive otherwise fatal attacks with 1 HP left if they like you. So my Alakazam, in a very satisfying way, wrecked all of Cynthia's Pokemon, and then Garchomp would have gotten the kill, but Alakazam survived with 1 HP because it loves me, and then it got a critical hit. I think the hit would have killed anyways because it was using Dazzling Gleam, but it just didn't feel as impressive. You know what I mean? It was a good run, but it definitely made me feel less brilliant, less shining. Pun intended. That's how I beat Shining Pearl after 2 years with my great team that I creatively nicknamed after what they're based on. Turtle the Torterra, Brain the Alakazam. I probably should have named it something like Magician because I think that's what Alakazam actually is supposed to be. I don't know where I was at. Proto the Bastiodon, Karuta the Magmortar, Gun the Octillery. Sorry to my viewers who voted for Gastrodon, that's what that community poll was about. And my favorite Pokemon on this team, the Mismagius that I nicknamed Banshee Her, because Mismagius is a Banshee. I usually don't even nickname my Pokemon, but this is the best nickname I've given anyone. Also, the Misdreavus that I caught was assigned male, so this Mismagius is a trans icon. Anyways, I returned my copy to the library because I respect public services, but what if beating Shining Pearl over a fabulous weekend wasn't enough? What if I wanted more? How was I going to get it? Well, I still have a copy of Brilliant Diamond and a notes file from 2022 planning my Chimchar run that literally just said Infernape Milotic. Magmortar is a Pokemon that I've always wanted to use, but compared to Milotic, it's pretty accessible. In 2024, for whatever reason, I am up for a challenge. Milotic is a really tedious Pokemon to get. I'll get into why later in excruciating detail, but I thought since I'm already going to make this run more challenging by trying to catch a Feebas, why not challenge myself a little bit more? Let's up the ante. I should do a shiny hunt, because I've never done one. Historically, I have very bad luck with shinies. I either find none, or I find shiny Pokemon that I don't even want. So I knew this was going to be a nice, repetitive pastime for a while I was doing something else. Chimchar is normally orange throughout its line, but its shiny form is pink. And I wanted Pink Gay Monkey very badly. Thankfully, in the newer games, they cut the shiny odds from, oh my god, numbers, 1 in 8,192 to 1 in 4,096. So it's much easier to do this in the remakes than it would have been in the originals. This was a full odds hunt that I was prepared to update in my community Discord for weeks. Join my Discord if you want to gab. If it gets crazy, I'm sinking that ship. But for now, I just ask questions about games and people answer, and I love that. Generally, I have pretty bad luck in games overall. I'll miss easy attacks, or I'll have a really hard time finding relatively accessible Pokemon, and shinies are no different. In my 15 plus years of playing Pokemon, I've caught like less than 10 that are not for the plot. Like, I'm not counting the red Gyarados in Gen 2, I'm not counting the shiny Ponyta in Legends Arceus. Also, most of the shinies I do have are in the 3D era of Pokemon where it's much easier to see them. Probability wise, it definitely would have been faster for me to just take the starter Chimchar, breed it with a Ditto, and just keep hatching eggs until I find one, but I wanted pink game monkey from the start. At the very top of the game, if you save right before entering Lake Verity, you have that 1 in 4,096 odds to steal a pink Chimchar from Professor Rowan's briefcase, be gay, do crimes, and if the Chimchar is orange, you can just keep resetting your game and grabbing a newly generated Chimchar until it's shiny. I thought, genuinely, with my luck, that this would take forever. I am so lucky though, because I found the shiny Chimchar within 24 hours. I'm such a fucking idiot. My mic isn't on. I'm such an idiot. My mic isn't on. My mic isn't on. I'm so fucking stupid. Okay, it's 2 p.m. It's July 2nd, 2024. Attempt 326, and I have my pink Chimchar. Have a wonderful day. Have a blessed day. Call it beginner's luck, call it whatever you want, because I'm not doing this shit again. In only 326 resets, I found my monkey. It has an unfavorable nature that decreases its special attack, but it's pink, and that's all a girl could ever ask for. If you think I'm ready to go though, you are sorely mistaken, because the team becomes much more complicated. My original plan was for the team to be made up of Infernape, Milotic, Clefable, Drapion, Licky, and Electivire. Generally, I try to use Pokemon that I've never used before, and all of these Pokemon except for Infernape and Electivire are new to me. I will pass off now to a version of me in the past who will discuss the aesthetic of this team and why I made my choices. Whoa, how come you're hiding in there in my little webcam? Who is that woman? Who was that? Whoa. So I thought I'd do a little show don't tell and kind of walk you through the process for making this team, because my original plan, all I knew in my heart of hearts was that I wanted Infernape and where is Milotic? Oh my god, okay, it's in Pokedex order. I thought I was being silly. Okay, Milotic is here. So this was the original premise, the seedling of an idea. And then I was like, Clefable. How fun. It's a Pokemon I've always wanted to use, but I appreciate it a little bit more now that it's a fairy type. Normal types aren't always my favorite, which is ironic because later I decide to add a normal type to this team anyways. So I have these three, and then after kind of looking at the type composition, I'm like noticing the gaps in this team, especially after the introduction of fairy type in Gen 6. I love to have a fairy type on the team. I also use poison a lot more often, and I love a dark type, so I'm like, oh my gosh, Drapion is a poison dark type. That's so perfect. Its biggest gaps that I don't love that it has are that I don't have anything to deal with electric type. So at this point it wasn't hugely important, but I like Licky. I don't know if that's like problematic to say on the internet. I know a lot of big streamers elect not to say this name, I think because they don't want to be sexualized, but you just shouldn't do that anyways. Licky, is that funny? Are you 8? I don't know. I love Licky. It's such a dapper design for a Pokemon. I really like Electivire. A lot of my teams generally have the same composition unless I choose the grass starter, in which case I play around a little bit more, but generally I have a fire, water, and an electric type as like my core. That's not always the case, but usually I do. So I have this nice looking team, and then I'm thinking like, oh, I guess I'll use Electivire. I used Magmortar in my Pearl run. Electivire is like the equivalent version. It's the Diamond exclusive to Magmortar's Pearl. But looking at this team, I just like I'm not sure, especially because like these 5 are pretty in line with each other. So then I started playing around with the idea of doing a shiny hunt. I like shiny Clefable. It very much has that Gen 1 vibe of not being a particularly good shiny, but I like the green horns. So I was playing around. There was a certain phase where I was like, maybe I'll get all of these Pokemon as shinies, especially Drapion. Like, it's kind of silly. That zoomed in a little more. Drapion has a bad shiny, all things considered. This is the original form. It's like a nice deep magenta, a very warm purple, and it has blue accents, but then its shiny has like a turquoise accent and it becomes slightly redder. Its previous form, Skorupi, is like a red, so I just wish they stuck with that true red. Also, like, it's kind of a joke right? Like shiny hunting a Skorupi because it's a silly idea because the shiny doesn't look good. So I was playing around, and then Infernape has a really cool pink shiny that I appreciate. Obviously, that was integral to the run. But there was a while where like this was the team or a version of the team, like half pink, half yellow. Like the palette makes sense, but it's not as good as it could be. Like I do think Milotic, Licky Licky, and Electivire all together. Electivire also has like an interesting shiny. I like that its eyes become blue, but it's not that good. Like it's not super identifiable. But even this lineup, I'm like, okay, there's some cohesion. We can make this work with 3 yellow forms, 3 pink forms. But then I was like, I don't know. This isn't speaking to me. What if I did an all pink team? Like that seems really fun. Also, like obviously my Milotic has to be female because it has the locks, it has the inches, it has the Lux Noir London. So right now this team looks really good. My heart was set on having an electric type. So then I had to go through. If we go to shinyrating.com, you can sort Pokemon by type and color. Never mind. Let's take the pink off. This website is cool. It has a lot of filters. You can get rid of forms because it has all of the Pokemon Go versions of Pokemon. Sorting by color, it did flop a little, but this is how I went through and, found out if any of these electric types were, oh, shiny Electabuzz is like a nice corally orange. But this is how I went through and picked like what pink shiny type Pokemon I wanted. I realized Mareep is shiny. Flaffy is not a good shiny in particular. The orb is green, the fur is slightly pink, but otherwise not crazy. Shiny Ampharos, being this color, it's on the table. Wow, shiny Elekid is like barely anything happens. So that's one. I know Luxray wouldn't work. There's Pachirisu, who is also pink, and that's kind of all we've got. So it's like if we plug in Pachirisu, it looks okay, but it doesn't match the design ethos of everything else going on. And I think it's because it's a simple, like it's sleek, furry, plush, very simple shapes. It kind of lacks something else going on here. I'll plug in Shiny Ampharos and you'll see why it looks so much better, especially next to Licky Licky. But if we plug in the shiny, like, is it all perfect pink? No. Ampharos is a little bit more of like a lilac color. Drapion is, like a magenta. It's a little bit darker. Melodic, I feel like some people might argue that this is red. I don't think it's red. It's like a hot pink. So I enjoy that they're not all the same color pink. But there are certain through lines in each of these Pokemon that make them make sense. I think like Ampharos also edged out Pachirisu because it has a pink body with a white belly, whereas Pachirisu has a white body with pink accents. But it's like all of these Pokemon are pink. They also have pretty similar accents, like Ampharos, Licky Licky, and Clefable all have the same like toenails. I know that's weird, but it's true. Also, a lot of these Pokemon have like a stripe detail or a pattern. Like Ampharos has the stripes on its neck. Licky Licky has the upside down Wi-Fi symbol, which is like, huh? The way Drapion is segmented makes sense. Clefable has dark ears, which makes more sense with Ampharos and Melodic. It's obviously not a pattern. Infernape has the swirls, and Melodic has this pattern on its tail. Like something about this team has a visual cohesion together where the palette doesn't stray too far. Like we're working with various shades of pink, white accents, yellow accents, black accents. Melodic takes the biggest departure. It has a beige body, but that's kind of similar to Infernape's kind of ornate armor happening. Clothing on Pokemon, it's like, did you grow that? Like, why is it so biological? But also the blue is met very nicely by Drapion's blue accents, Ampharos's blue accents. Like all of the colors in this look exist in another Pokemon. Does that make sense? That's why I think this team looked so good. And I was like, this is what I deserve. There was also a period where I was, oh no, that's horrible. There was also a period where I was debating, where's Lopunny? I was also debating Lopunny because Lopunny is a pink shiny too. But it just doesn't, it's not making sense. Maybe if I did like a full cute pink Pokemon line where this is the start, maybe there's something there, but I'm not willing to explore today. Anyways, thank you so much. I just wanted to walk you through that so you understand the vision. Back to our regularly scheduled content. Wow, thank you so much for that, me in the past. You are constantly outdoing yourself, and you slayed. Anyways, the first 5 Pokemon are natively available in BDSP, so there's no issue there, but Mareep is not. In my excitement, I misread that Mareep is available in Pokemon Legends Arceus, so I thought this was incredible. I was like so ready to string together this narrative of my protagonist Dawn going through time to build this incredible pink team. The Mareep, which isn't available in BDSP, would come from Legends. And because I want Mareep to have my current trainer ID, I'd breed for the Shiny and Brilliant Diamond with the help of either my fully evolved Magmortar or one of the many Magbies I caught during the Shining Pearl run, because Magby has an ability called Flame Body, which reduces the amount of time it takes for eggs to hatch. See how this is all coming together? All of this accrued experience would result in this pink super team. Unfortunately, I'm stupid, and Mareep is not available in the Gen 4 titles, at least not until deep in the post-game. Thankfully, it is available in Scarlet and Violet, and those games make it so easy to hunt for shiny Pokemon with the sandwich mechanic. You can have picnics with your Pokemon and make sandwiches that greatly impact the encounters in the overworld, including greatly increasing your shiny encounter rate and forcing all of the Pokemon you see to be electric type. Wow, I've been looking for this Mareep for a while, and then I caved and I made one of those stupid electric sandwiches, and now I found one. I feel like I need to catch it immediately, and then I need to keep looking to see if I can find a second one, because I'm going to transfer this one to my Brilliant Diamond playthrough and have an all pink team. Was that a critical catch? Wow, who knew shiny hunting was fucking easy? 2 in 1 day, and I've like caught less than 5 shinies in my life, I think. I'm unfortunately going for a very fun naming scheme for me, but perhaps not advertiser friendly. But wow, okay, I caught my shiny Chimchar and I caught my shiny Mareep. That's crazy. Now I can actually play the fucking game that I want to play. Now that I've done my shiny stuff. Of course it'll be annoying to get the Feebas because the Feebas is going to take all fucking day. But wow, that was thrilling. I've literally been doing this for like 5 hours, give or take a couple breaks, and then I made this fucking sandwich and now my life is fixed. I guess I should save. That took virtually no time. I can't believe I didn't do that forever ago, because that was much easier. Much, much easier. Around Cortondo, this was so easy that I found not 1, but 2 shiny Mareeps in the 30 minutes that the sandwich effects last. I wanted to do it without the sandwich initially, but after about 5 hours of looking, I was starting to doubt that I actually understood how overworld spawns work in Scarlet and Violet, so I caved. I decided to engage with the picnic mechanic, which is something I never did during my actual run of Violet. I had to practice making the sandwiches. It's weirdly hard. I hate it. Anyways, again, my shiny luck for this team has actually been outstanding. I have 1 pink sheep to send back in time to Brilliant Diamond and 1 to keep in Violet. Isn't that wonderful? What a perfect world. Because I got the Mareep from a different game, it's going to have a different trainer ID because I used a different player character to catch it. And the big con of this is that when you're playing and you use a Pokemon that doesn't quote unquote belong to you, it gains experience more quickly, and above a certain level, unless you have all of the gym badges, it doesn't want to listen to you. This brings me back to the uneven leveling of BDSP, because my level 10 shiny Mareep quickly evolved into Flaffy and was practically unusable in the early to mid game because it didn't want to listen. This is somewhat unrelated, but I tend to play Pokemon in a pretty insular way. I don't play online. I avoid Pokemon that need to be traded unless I have both versions of the game and I can trade with myself. So this was an interesting way of approaching building a team and taking advantage of Pokemon Home to transfer in a Pokemon that wouldn't normally be available. Home isn't perfect. I find it to be quite a frustrating app to use. Also, the fact that you can only have like 30 Pokemon in it and then they want you to pay money is a little... it's giving criminal. It becomes very difficult to use Home for free if you're playing every generation and want to keep them saved. But at least I have access to the Pokemon in my other save files, which is nice. Like, if I want to bring in those Magbies, I can. And even though I'm not using them directly for the team, I have a feeling that this will not be the last time they come up. Because I wouldn't be able to catch a lot of my desired team for a while, in order to fill out my early game roster, I caught a Bidoof that I named Idiot, a Wurmple that I named Uggo, and a Badoo that I named Trashbag, which is actually my favorite nickname I've ever given to a Pokemon. It's so funny. Go, Trashbag! That's iconic. You can't disagree with me. And there is a Pokemon that is a trash bag. So It could also be literal, but I gave them awful nicknames because none of them were pink. None of them were going to grow up to be pink. And that to me is the most disgusting thing that's ever happened. They did help a lot to cover Monferno's weaknesses and Flaffy's bad attitude until I reached Eterna City and could catch my next 2 members. Cleffa is a rare encounter in Mount Coronet if you're looking at any time except in the mornings, and Lickitung is available underground, which is accessible after you reach Eterna City. Lickitung took virtually no time. Cleffa took forever. I'm not always lucky. That took a long time. It's a 5% encounter rate, and they really made me work for that 5%. I also caught more than one Cleffa because the first one I found had Cute Charm, and I don't care about Cute Charm. I wanted Magic Guard, so I kept looking to find a Magic Guard Cleffa. Also, Cleffa sucks. I wanted it to evolve into Clefairy immediately, but Cleffa is a friendship evolution, and in order to quickly build friendship, at that point in the game, you have to walk 38,000 steps. So I did that. I took a little break and I ran in circles because I wanted a Clefairy before the gym. And it takes absolutely forever. The premise of this run is doing tedious things for the glory of the team, and I really stuck by that. It's at least a little bit faster in this game to grind steps because you have omnidirectional movement, but steps are still counted in a square grid on the ground as they would have been in the original games. So if you're cutting through that grid properly, you can really double your pleasure, double your fun, fitness max, steps max, Fitbit max, and get to that 40,000 like marginally quicker. So I got high friendship, which is great, but now all of my Pokemon are busted and can survive hits and get critical hits more easily, which is also a little bit odd because I guess no one thought about friendship versus level cap disobedience because my Flaffy was like, I don't want to listen, but also I'd love to impress you, so I'm gonna get a critical hit because I'm obsessed with you. It's a toxic thing we had for a while. That's the deal with Clefairy for now, more on her later, but I caught the Lickitung that I wanted. And normally I have so much Pokemon information locked in my brain. I remember that Lickitung learns Rollout in its early 30s. Lickitung's evolution condition is that it needs to level up knowing Rollout. But for whatever reason, in the modern generations, they've fucked that up. And now Lickitung learns it at level 1, which basically means you have to wait until you get to the move relearner in order for Lickitung to actually evolve. Because of how overleveled my Pokemon were, I could have had Licky Licky by the time you make it to Hearthome City. Also, embarrassingly enough, I forgot that they switched the gym order in Platinum because Fantina is numerically the 5th gym leader, but in Platinum you fight her 3rd. So I'm running around Hearthome City trying to find her because I'm so confused as to why she's not in her gym. And then I had to Google it, and then I realized you have to go to the 3rd gym. Like, you have to do the gyms in order in this game. And then I felt so stupid. So now I'm sitting here looking dumb in this city where they do contests, and contests are stupid and bad. What an awful mini game. They really butchered it. So I'm sitting there with my stupid Lickitung that can't evolve, looking for a woman who doesn't exist. You have to wait until you hit Pastoria City because that's where the move relearner is. And all he asks for is a heart scale, which are limited in the overworld, but you can also mine them in the underground. Thankfully, getting to Pastoria means we can catch our next member, Skorupi, who is available in the Great Marsh. And now we're going to have the same team until after the 6th gym leader because that's when shit is really going to hit the fan. Unfortunately, catching Pokemon in the Great Marsh is annoying. There's a set of Pokemon that shuffle between the 6 areas, and I got really annoyed of searching for a Skorupi. I probably went in like 6 or 7 times and I just wasn't able to find it in any of the areas. But thankfully, Skorupi is also available in the underground and is really easy to catch. I don't think any of the Pokemon in the Great Marsh are exclusive to the marsh. I think all of them are available underground. So that just saved me a bit of time because I was annoyed. So like, I'm happy to have participated in the Great Marsh mechanic because you can't battle and catch Pokemon in the marsh. It's a different style of play where you can throw mud at Pokemon and hopefully that endears them to you and they'll stay in the ball. Another consideration I had was choosing not to evolve my Monferno until level 56 because generally when Pokemon evolve, it delays when they learn moves. So they start learning things at a much later level. Also, there are instances where a pre-evolved form gets moves that the evolved form doesn't. That's not the case with Monferno, but it does get Flare Blitz at level 56, whereas Infernape, I think you have to wait until 68, and I need Flare Blitz for the Elite Four because I don't want to be stuck with Flame Wheel, and I need a physical fire type move because it has a negative special attack nature. So I can't just use Flamethrower, which would be honestly ideal. Nothing of note happens for a while until after I've defeated Byron, and now you can use Strength, which grants you access to the basement floor 1 of Mount Coronet, which has been dubbed Feebas Lake. I don't know if you're picking up on this by now, but every single Pokemon that I've wanted for this run is a somewhat complicated order. Feebas is the most tricky. Thankfully, there's a workaround, but this time it has has nothing to do with the underground. Feebas is notoriously hard to get in Gen 3 and Gen 4. I'd never looked into it before doing research for this, but it's significantly easier to get a Feebas in later gens because it's just a normal encounter. Like, you can just find it anywhere, like other Pokemon. But in Gen 3 and Gen 4, they made it comically difficult to find a Feebas. The numbers aren't exactly the same as in Gen 3, but I'm not talking about Gen 3. In Gen 4, Feebas has a 50% chance to appear in 4 different fishing spots in this specific lake. So only 4 of the tiles will actually yield a Feebas. The spots change every day, and a normal full odds Feebas hunt would generally require someone to tediously fish in each spot 4 to 5 times, and hopefully they catch one. I'd recommend using an old rod for this, just because you can only fish up a Feebas or a Magikarp, whereas if you use the good rod, you're also going to catch Barboach, and I just think it's like easier to only have 2 in the shuffle. I was prepared to do this hunt at full odds, but then the day I was going to do it, someone I know was K-worded. I love not being able to say words on the internet. So yeah, tonally it shifted from playing Pokemon for fun to playing Pokemon to cope. Still fun. I still had a lot of fun. But now I was like, I'm not fucking fishing for this. I'm going to use the exploit. There's a couple of specific Reddit threads that made finding the Feebas and evolving it just a lot easier. So shout out to Reddit. I guess shout out to Cerebi and Bulbapedia if we're giving people flowers. I ended up using the exploit. I tried fishing for Feebas, but unlike shiny hunting, which is a little bit more of an active process because you actually have to like do stuff to push things forward, fishing is very still. There's not a lot of movement. You actually have to be like patient. I feel like in my mind it compares to like how I like to drive, because I don't like being stuck in traffic. If it means I get to the place at the same time, I'd rather take a route that allows me to keep moving as opposed to being stuck in bumper to bumper. Born to slay, forced to fish was not going to be me. Anyways, some smart coding people figured out that you can calculate which 4 spots you can catch the Feebas in based on the lottery numbers that you can pull from Jubilife City, and they've made a very handy GitHub page that you can use to generate the spawn locations. You need 2 days worth of lottery numbers. You can mess with your Switch's internal clock in order to do this. I was already playing late enough, so I just waited until midnight. Thankfully, the generator was accurate and I found Feebas, no problem. I caught 3 in total, and I made sure to get a male and a female so I could breed in case something funky happened with the evolution. Part 2 of my low-tech acquisition being complicated is the evolution method is tricky and like a little nebulous. In Gen 3 and Gen 4, again, you can enter your Pokemon in contests, which are literally like pageants or dog shows. It's a pretty cool system in the older game. I think BDSP really simplifies it, which makes them faster. That's the only pro. But I think the con is that there was a lot of depth to that mini game before, and they really watered it down. Previously, every existing Pokemon move used to have a different effect in contests than it did in battles, so you could do interesting combinations to get more points during the move showcase portion of contests. In BDSP, it's been reduced to a single rhythm game. They take out the attack showcase portion, and I don't understand how attacks are supposed to actually work, but I slayed in the contests anyways, so who cares? There are 5 contest conditions. These are basically like the categories or the types of contests you can do. Beauty is what we care about in this instance. In most runs, contest mechanics are a total side mission, completely ignorable, but I had to get in deep because in order to evolve Feebas in games where contests exist, you need to level it up with max beauty. How do we achieve max beauty? I hear many of you asking me through your humble computer screens as you like and subscribe. You get cooking. Puffins are a treat that you can make from berries that you give to Pokemon in order to raise their contest stats. We need a lot of dry berries to make blue Puffins. The best way to do this, in my opinion, is to keep it simple with the berries, but maximize the cooking process. Use berries that are easy to obtain and ones that you don't need to plant or harvest to get more of. I thought I'd need a lot, so I made a mistake in planting a bunch of berries because I ended up having way more than I needed, but we're focusing on quality because there's a secondary contest stat called Sheen, meaning you can't feed a Pokemon infinite Puffins in order to max out all of its contest stats. You need to be strategic enough to max out a Feebas's beauty stat before you max out its Sheen. You can cook Puffins in 2 different places. Both of them are in Heart Home City. You can either either do it in the Poffin house, which you shouldn't do, or you can cook in Amity Square. You're gonna want to cook in Amity Square, unless you have friends, but I've established my whole buddy I work alone vibe, so our only friend is the game. In the original Diamond Pearl Platinum, Amity Square is the only place where you can walk with Pokemon in the overworld, and they have to be deemed as cute, so only certain Pokemon qualify for entry. In the remakes, you can walk with any of your team members in the overworld after reaching the square, but the restriction of who's allowed in still applies. I could have used my starter, but I did go out and catch 6 Pokemon specifically for this process. Your Poffins just become so much more effective if you cook with Pokemon who have max friendship. Does this mean I grinded out another 40,000 steps to get my Pokemon to love me? Yes. Does this mean my Joy-Cons sound like an old person with awful joints? Also yes. So I have my team of 6. Now we just need the berries. I used Oran, Wiki, Chesto, and Raspberries. Perhaps there's a better combo, but this is what I chose and they worked. I made 2 batches, I got 8 Poffins, and they worked like a charm. My only recommendation is that you practice the Poffin minigame with berries you can buy. I've read that being bad at the minigame isn't super impactful, but I wasn't taking any chances. Also, if you use multiple of the same berry in a recipe, it ruins the Poffin, which is why you need 4 unique berries. Turn off autosave, save beforehand, and restart your game if something goes horribly wrong. Also, because it's a rotate the joystick mini game, this isn't super intuitive because in most comparable games, you can only use one control stick to actually spin, but in this mini game, you can use both of the joysticks in order to stir faster. It's not something you would think about, but it's true. Also, if your Pokemon has a nature that influences special attack, it does affect the efficacy of the Poffins. If it has a bad special attack nature, it's not going to like the Poffins as much, so you're going to need more, and they might not work. So that is something to also consider. Mine had a neutral special attack nature, the Poffins worked, and I used a rare candy to get a Milotic. Yay, 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 I got the fierce water lady. It was a very thrilling payoff because I was just blindly trusting that this would work. Some people on the Reddit thread that I followed said that they didn't have my same luck, but it worked for me. Since my Milotic is way more work to get than pretty much every other Pokemon in the dex, I also decided that I was going to get the regional dex at this point, which, like many other things I've discussed, I've never achieved in a Pokemon game. I've tried in a lot of them, but I always give up partway through just because I move on and become more interested in something else. But again, grief had me locked in. I was playing hours of BDSP. I'm talking a lot about mechanics today. Normally, I'm a narrative girly. I love to do a character portrait and really dive in. But today, I don't care. You can tell for me, playing the game for the game was the priority, not the plot. I don't care about Team Galactic. I don't care about Cyrus's plan. I did randomly fixate on this one interaction after the 7th gym and the Lake Guardian issue where you have to go to Galactic HQ and this random grunt complains that their Clefairy was taken away by you, but none of the grunts in the game that you actually fight have a Clefairy. So I'm assuming they're talking about the one that Jupiter attempted to steal from the bike shop owner in Eterna City, whose name is Rad Rickshaw. I just wanted to talk about Rad Rickshaw. I'm sure many other people know that that's his name because that's his name and that's what his bike shop is called. I just skip over a lot of text. I'm not always paying attention to what's going on, and I know these games verbatim. I know the order, I know what to do, except for the Fantina thing. Don't talk about that. Don't debunk what I just said. I have a lot of info filed away. I don't need to pay attention to what these characters are saying. So just the fact that his name was Rad Rickshaw, and he also has this really incredible Pokemon Adventures official art, incredible. It's the price I pay for moving too quickly, I guess. Anywho, every Pokemon on this team is in place. By the 8th gym, I'll have every Pokemon that I need. I'll have good move sets and every Pokemon will be fully evolved. Infernape, obviously tricky because it's shiny. I also tortured it for 20 levels by refusing to evolve it until I got Flare Blitz at 56. Blocking evolution doesn't feel good emotionally for me. There's a she-wolf in the closet. Let it out so it can breathe. Flare Blitz and Slack Off combo to heal recoil damage on one Pokemon was very delicious though. We have Ampharos, another shiny, a problem child, a rebellious teen who wouldn't cooperate until the mid-game, unremarkable moveset, but Thunder Wave is really good for catching Pokemon and completing the Pokedex. Clefable was annoying because I didn't want to hunt for a Cleffa in the morning. We already talked about that. I looked at night where the percentage is way lower. I did the 40k steps immediately for Clefairy, but there's another hoop to jump through. To evolve into Clefable, you need a Moonstone. Usually, a couple of each evolution stones are available somewhere in the overworld. Several of the evolution stones are only available through mining. So here I am, sending this 10-year-old girl in the mines to do labor. Also, I can have this gay finger-wagging fairy type, which is honestly a little bit harmful, a little bit reductive. Do better, Nintendo. You know what? It was worth the cost. Every time Clefable did a little It's giving. I gave it Cosmic Power, which increases its defense. I reused my same Alakazam method from Shining Pearl, where I just let one Pokemon set up against Cynthia's Spiritomb, and Clefable walled Cynthia's entire team. Is it Clefable or Clefable? Sadly, critical hits do ignore stat changes, so Clefable was able to take out 3 of Cynthia's Pokemon, and then Spiritomb came back in and got a critical hit Shadow Ball. Tragic. Wasn't the sweep I dreamed of, but she still did great. With Licky Licky, I already discussed the heart scale rollout shenanigans, but with Belly Drum, Power Whip, Earthquake, and Slam, it was really delicious. With Power Whip, I was able to sweep Bertha's whole team, and it was fabulous. Drapion would have been more inconvenient, but I ignored the marsh, so who cares? I also ended up with the ability Battle Armor, which is cool in theory, but Sniper would have been better, because Battle Armor protects against critical hits, but Sniper does more damage when you get a critical hit, and Drapion learns Night Slash, which already has an increased critical hit chance, and also max friendship, yada yada yada. Sniper Night Slash would have been choice. I don't even need to talk about Milotic. You just heard my graduate thesis. Honestly, Milotic, a lot of work, but the moveset? Underwhelming. Milotic is like a good competitive Pokemon, but underwhelming for normal play. All of these Mons made great contributions to the Elite Four battles. Infernape swept all of Aaron's bug types before switching to Licky Licky, who had Earthquake and dealt with Drapion. I already mentioned my Bertha sweep. After finishing Shining Pearl right before this run, I remember Flint's team being extremely annoying. His Rapidash has a wide lens to increase the accuracy of hypnosis and put your Pokemon to sleep, and then his Drifblim doesn't even have attacking moves. It uses Strength Sap to lower the enemy's attack and regain HP, Will-O-Wisp for burn, and then it has Minimize to increase evasion, and then he'll use Baton Pass and switch into Infernape, which gives Infernape the evasion boost and makes it so hard to hit. This was big trouble for me in Shining Pearl, but I came so prepared. I led with Milotic, carrying a Chesto Berry from my The Bear culinary school era. Chesto Berries wake sleeping Pokemon, and I think the AI knew that I had a Chesto Berry on my Milotic because he didn't go for hypnosis at all. Milotic did well against his fire types in Steelix. My pink Infernape took care of his Lopunny. There are no fire types in Gen 4, we don't need to go there today. And his Drifblim didn't even do the Baton Pass strategy at all. Ampharos took it out. Lucian was really easy. Drapion countered most of his Pokemon. Clefable took out the Medicham, and then Ampharos came in for the last hit against Bronzong when Drapion fell to Earthquake. I already mentioned my plan against Cynthia to wall with Cosmic Power, Moonlight, Clefable. It took out Lucario, Gastrodon, and Roserade. She almost got Spiritomb, but Infernape cleaned up there. Ampharos dealt with her Milotic, which was recover stalling me, Karma, and then Milotic froze Garchomp with Ice Beam, which was very delicious. How embarrassing for her. And that's how I entered the Hall of Fame with my incredible fierce pink team. Yay! Yay! Everybody clap! Yay! I was so happy. This lineup, this image, this screenshot is so perfect. Also, can we talk about the Sinnoh Elite Four quickly as characters? They might be one of my least favorite Elite Fours in the entire franchise. Because besides Flint, they're so weakly characterized. Like literally, who are they? None of them have a life outside of their room. I think the shift in the next generation to have very strongly themed Elite Four rooms that actually inform who the characters are and make them feel more tethered to this world was a very good decision. Like, gym leaders aren't always slam dunk characters, but they tend to at least reflect something about the city that they live in. But the Elite Four don't have that. Aaron is obsessed with bug Pokemon. Like, who cares? Lucian's smart. Who cares? Bertha is a nice old lady, and I love that for her. Also, they're all greatly overshadowed by Cynthia, who is iconic. Defeating the Pokemon League for the first time gets you a star on your trainer card. There are 6 levels of trainer card, ranging from no star to 5 stars. Getting 5 stars is really hard, but some of the stars are quite easy. Beating a master rank contest gets you another star, and how convenient that I have a Pokemon with max beauty on deck ready to go for that. I don't get how contests work. I don't get how the moves affect the contests. I just kept trying it over and over again until I won, but that's star 2 right there. For the other 3 requirements, you have to collect 100 unique statues from the underground. It's tedious, it relies on probability and RNG, but it is the easiest of the remaining 3 things to do. And I did it. So I have 3 stars. Another requirement is to get a 100 win streak at the Battle Tower, which is really hard. I've trained Pokemon competitively in other games in the past, so I'm familiar with the systems. Also, my Pokemon did contract Pokerus, which is a Pokemon disease rarer than shiny Pokemon, but it makes raising competitive Pokemon easier. It's just a big time commitment to have perfectly min-maxed Mons, and I'm not willing to go there. Not right now. Mummy needs a break. The last requirement is completing the national dex, which after you complete the regional decks is possible to do in BDSP natively. Like, you don't need other games. Almost every single Pokemon is available in the underground, or they've added Pokemon to the Great Marsh that originally weren't there before, and you can get new Pokemon in the Trophy Garden that don't exist in Sinnoh at all. There's a funny little gag where the rich guy who owns the mansion is like, I was walking through the garden this morning and a little Eevee bounced up and it kissed me right on the cheek. And his butler goes, sir, we don't have Eevee in the garden. And the rich guy goes, no, butler, I saw an Eevee in the garden just this morning. And then the butler has to run out and fetch Eevees to put in the garden for you to catch. This video is already going to be 25 hours long, but I do want to talk about the Pokedex. That's my last thing. I've only ever completed the Pokedex in side games, like in the Pokemon Ranger games, for example. All of the Pokemon have a certain side quest. You don't catch Pokemon in this game. You befriend them, you tame them for a little bit, and then you let them go. Bring back Pokemon Rangers. Where did they go? Game Freak does consider Legends Arceus to be a mainline title, but I actually disagree because I think genre and form and mode matter. And while Pokemon is more actively a battling game, the true core has always had to do with collecting and trading specifically. Like, trading is so important. That's why there's 2 games per generation. It's a great marketing tool to make a ton of money, but the earnest intention of trading is to share Pokemon with your friends and trade them back and forth. And that's like the whole reason why Pokemon can evolve via trading. That's why I don't think Legends Arceus should be considered a mainline title, because the format is different. The game is meant to be played solo. You can't trade. You can transfer out Pokemon via home, but the ethos isn't aligned with the other titles. They might add more online features in Legends ZA, but I'm assuming that game is going to be another solo experience. And just because it's a AAA title with a decent budget does not a Pokemon mainline game make. Anyways, I did complete the Pokedex in Legends Arceus because it's my favorite Pokemon game ever. I'm so excited for ZA. Please don't fuck it up, Game Freak. Please, 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 please. Please. Send it to me, Rachel. Send it to me, please. Honestly, all they have to do to make me happy in ZA is just make the game look a little bit more polished. Otherwise, I'm sad. I'm right there, front and center. That game is probably going to come out while I'm in school and I have 0 time, but I will be playing. Part of the joy of this run was revisiting Legends Arceus for a little bit, revisiting Violet for a little bit. I love Violet. I think Gen 9 is made up of very good games. If they were made well, if the games worked, they would be incredible, but they're just so held back by being butt ugly. They do not run. They have a hard time crawling. It's just sad. I obviously didn't form my Shining Pearl team to make completing the Pokedex easier. It just did, because I have a Bastiodon and a Mismagius from that game. There's a small handful of Pokemon that are in the Sinnoh Dex but aren't available in Legends Arceus. Besides Feebas, all of them are really easy to obtain and none of them are version exclusives, so filling out the Pokedex really isn't that hard. But these are all of the problem Pokemon for filling out the regional decks. Glameow, Misdreavus, Shieldon, their evolutions, and Palkia are all exclusive to Pearl. I ended up using Legends Arceus to fill out the gaps in my Pokedex. I did have to catch a Glameow in Legends Arceus, for example. Bonsai isn't technically exclusive. It shows up in both games. It's just much easier to obtain in Shining Pearl, so that was another Pokemon that I had to transfer. Gen 4 introduced honey trees as a mechanic. They're the only gen that they appear in. Basically, you slather honey on these unique yellow trees, and you come back however many real-world hours later, and the tree might be shaking, meaning there's a Pokemon on it. Similar to the Great Marsh, the novelty of honey trees was reduced a lot by the Grand Underground. Almost every honey tree Pokemon is much more readily available in the Underground. You don't have to wait a day. The only ones that aren't available are Burmy and Heracross, which are very easy to get in PLA, thank God. It's also worth noting that Munchlax is largely considered to be one of the hardest Pokemon to obtain natively in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, because it has like a 1% chance to show up on very specific honey trees. It's not even all of the trees, it's only some. So a lot of people consider it to be harder than Feebas. Feebas is hard to obtain because it's inconvenient and random. Like, it's really a test of attrition, but it's a guarantee that a Feebas will be in the lake on a given day that you go. Munchlax isn't guaranteed, and the spawn rate is so small. Like, it could literally take you months to actually find one, but Munchlax is in the Underground now. I was actually quite shocked by this. I thought Munchlax was going to be really hard. Berry also, interestingly enough, is like a honey tree truther. He has a Snorlax and a Heracross. So I don't know if that means anything to you, dear listener, but that is something. The other Pokemon that I had to transfer in are all of the trade evolution Pokemon, which in BDSP are only the Gen 1 trade evolved Pokemon, because again, all of the cool trade evolutions that they added in this generation that they made for this game aren't actually in Diamond and Pearl, but introduced in Platinum instead for some reason. Lastly, Spiritomb and Manaphy are tricky. Spiritomb has a really odd requirement about meeting NPCs in the underground that I just didn't want to engage with, and Manaphy is an event Pokemon from like 2022. It's no longer available as a free gift, so I also had to transfer in these two. Also, because I have the Pokedex filled out in PLA, you get the shiny charm, which again increases your shiny odds, and I found 3 shinies while I was running around, which was nuts. I guess my shiny luck hadn't run out by this point, but I caught a Hippopotas, which is an awful shiny. I could barely tell which Pokemon was shiny at first. And then I caught a Chatot and a Starly, which I think both have cool shinies. Also, I started working on the national dex in BDSP. I don't think it'll happen for me. I'm gladly gonna take my time and do that every now and again because there are other games to play before the end of the summer. But while I was grinding, I also found a shiny Raticate. Like, what is it with me and catching shiny Pokemon that I don't like? Comment below. What's the worst shiny you've ever caught? Otherwise, I caught all of the Sinnoh decks natively in Brilliant Diamond in their base forms and evolved them by grinding. It just feels correct, you know what I mean? Similar to shiny hunting, it was honestly a nice mindless task to do in the background while watching Desperate Housewives, my favorite show. Once I did complete the regional decks, I was very surprised at the Professor Oak cameo when he comes to give you the national decks. That was a fun little treat. I feel like I've talked about the underground so much, but Ilka really capitalized on it to make up for so many things this game lacks, because now almost every single Pokemon in existence spawns in the underground. This is how I caught the Squirtle with the Master Ball, in case any of you were wondering. That was kind of a spoiler. I really buried the lead as to how deep I was going to go in this playthrough. The only problem Pokemon that are like not possible to obtain ever are Celebi, Deoxys, and then Manaphy and Feony, but I already have a Manaphy. Is it Feony? Fione? I already have those from PLA, so those are easy. If I ever do choose to complete it, I might be calling one of you for help to send me a Celebi and a Deoxys. I don't know. I might do that eventually. The black trainer card is going to be on my mind for a while. I might do that. I might not. I've left the game at an okay place where it'll be easy for me to pick up and just keep going. Anywho, that's my huge info dump on BDSP. There were many firsts in this playthrough, as I'm sure you can tell. It was really fun and honestly a much needed distraction when my life got really hard earlier this month. There have been really, really good things happening in my life and really bad things. There's always a balance, you know what I mean? I hope this was at least somewhat interesting to listen to. I had a lot of fun writing it because I haven't been able to stop thinking about these games, really. I was in it so deeply. I think I'm at 60 hours right now. I made a very weak attempt at the battle tower, but obviously my Pokemon are not good enough after like the 20th streak, because a lot of the mons that they use really, really suck, and then it gets really hard later. Like getting to 100 wins, very, very hard. It seems like a cloister with skill link is the way. That's a later problem. Maybe I'll report back if I ever choose to do that. I've had my fill for a while, and now I'm just hoping that Legends ZA is good and comes out in a timely manner. Hopefully next year. They say 2025, but who can ever be sure? Thank you so much for listening. Have you ever done a shiny hunt? Have you ever completed the regional decks? Have you ever completed the national decks? Was it worth it? Be honest. Yeah, feel free to subscribe. I do have a Patreon now. Patreon members get early access and can sleep better at night knowing they've helped me pay my bills. Who's your favorite gym leader from Gen 4? Who's your favorite Elite Four member? There are right and wrong answers. Is Cynthia the greatest of all time? Do you think she's overrated? What is your unpopular Gen 4 take? I'm interested to read. Anywho, thank you for watching. I need to go bathe in the river before my shift in the mines later tonight because the water stones aren't going to farm themselves, and I need so many. So many. Hi girlies, editing me checking in. I just finished the video. Fortunately, I really have to like dangle the carrot in front of myself in order to motivate and incentivize doing something. So in honor of the run, it's so big. It's so this is a Clefairy Squishmallow, obviously very fitting, but like literally, what? It's so huge. And honestly, I don't know much about Squishmallows. I'm not a huge plush person. Oh my gosh, you can probably hear like my chair squeaking like crazy. They have surprising heft. I feel like that's really weird to say about like a plush pillow, but like, I feel like, you know what I mean? It has a lot of weight to it. That was unhinged. Anywho, thanks for watching. Follow my Patreon. Thank you to all my paid members for, supporting me and believing in what I do in a sense. Not that you don't believe in what I do if you're not paying. That's not what I'm saying at all. I mean, obviously, if you're at the end of the video, I think you're with it. You know what I mean? Oh, I was gonna like wave its little arm, but they're sewn on. Bye. Okay, logging off.